In Rio de Janeiro, we are once again introduced to a man named Arthur Bishop, a former hitman who's enjoying a peaceful life after faking his own death. After going through his daily morning routine, he unfolds a newspaper with a warm cup of coffee. He soon steps off from his luxurious yacht and discreetly arms a bomb on board for some extra security. Living his life as a tourist, he rides his bike through the city just to blend in. One afternoon he opts to visit his favorite restaurant, only to take his preferred seat and enjoy his drink. However, his peace is short-lived, as he's approached by a woman named Renee, who has proof of who he really is. She represents a powerful man that wants to hire Arthur to eliminate 3 of his target and make it look like an accident. If he turns the offer down, her boss will let criminals know Arthur's still alive, turning his life upside down. Hearing such, Arthur pretends to make a call and takes out his phone, but instead he actually uses it to take a picture of Renee. She immediately takes out his gun and Arthur responds by whacking the table against her, turning down the offer. All the henchmen Renee brought attack Arthur, and he fights them all using his self-defense skills and any object he can find in the restaurant, including the grill itself. After kicking off at least 6 men, he jumps off the building and scales on the roof of a passing skytram to get away. Continuing their pursuit, Renee and her men also board the same gondola but fails to find him. Meanwhile, Arthur spots a paraglider approaching him. Hearing some footsteps, they try to shoot Arthur from inside, and Renee also tries to climb up to him, so Arthur decides to jump on the back of a hand glider to escape successfully. In the evening, Arthur makes it back to his boat only to find some suspicious men checking it out. Using his phone, he triggers the bomb and makes the boat explode, killing the men on board. Afterwards, he heads to an old container where he's hidden all his tools and burns his old passport to replace it with a new identity. In southern Thailand, he meets his old friend May. And after explaining the situation he's in, she guides him to his another safe house, which turns out to be a tropical hut. Under the hut's floor, Arthur takes out his hidden weapons and tools. When night returns, he pays $10,000 to find information that links the woman from earlier, and soon finds out that she works for the man named Crane, a dangerous criminal he's familiar with. The next morning, a woman named Gina comes to May's place asking if she has any first aid kit she can use. May notices there are some bruises on her, but Gina turns her down for any extra help. When night falls, May hears screaming coming from one of the boats and notices Gina is being violently mistreated by a man called Frank. May asks Arthur for help, and after he has a look from a distance, he says he has his own problems, and May says that he helped her once and he should do it again for her. He immediately sets out and kills the boat's engine. When he makes it to the boat, Arthur tries to ask for Gina nicely, but Frank attacks him. Arthur immediately defends himself, and when Frank falls, he accidentally hits his head and dies. He hands Gina over to May and heads downstairs, but disturbingly finds a pistol along with her passport and a photo of himself. Puzzled, he shoots a flare from a distance and ignites the boat, leaving no evidence behind. As he returns, he immediately goes back and asks who sent her. After a gun is pulled, she confesses Crane blackmailed her to come to Arthur and fake as if she's in danger, but Frank got a little too much into his role. The plan was to get close to Arthur, and then she was supposed to call a number after he rescued her. A gorgeous morning approaches once more, and Arthur discovers Gina used to be part of a humanitarian group that offered assistance in Cambodia. Arthur asks Gina what Crane has on her, and Gina explains she ran a shelter for victims of human trafficking. A few weeks ago, a staff member disappeared, and 2 days later her body was left at her door. Crane sent a henchman that would kill the kids if Gina didn't accept to do this mission for him. Later, Arthur notices a boat nearby with men looking at the shore. They probably were sent by Crane, so Arthur walks around hand in hand with Gina to make them think her mission is working, and the duo then attends the local wedding. In the evening, Gina apologizes to Arthur for getting him into this mess. She explained that her kids are the most important thing for her. And Arthur explains he understands because he was an orphan too. Once he was sold to a gangster that trained child soldiers, and Crane was there too. Arthur somehow managed to escape, but Crane couldn't. Arthur thinks they blamed Crane for it, and now he wants revenge. Gina feels nothing but apologetic for Arthur and gives him a hug, which ended up spend the night together. Afterward, Arthur then promises Gina that he'll be arranging everything for her to escape without endangering the kids. He won't make the kills Crane wants him to, he'll only eliminate Crane himself. Arthur also gifts Gina his father's watch, the only memory he has of the man. The next morning, a group of policemen arrives at the beach, but Gina recognizes one of them as Crane's man. Arthur begins fighting them off, but while he's busy, the men kidnap Gina, so Arthur has no choice but to accept a meeting with Crane. He's then escorted to Bangkok, and then inside a luxurious mansion. But when he sits down, a bomb activates, and then after Crane finally reveals himself, Crane tells Arthur that if he wants Gina back, he'll have to do 3 kills for him and make them look like an accident. The first one is Krill, the highest profile arms dealer in Africa who is currently in a Malaysian prison. Crane also gives him a pill he must swallow after the kill so that they can find him. Meanwhile, Gina is kept hidden in one of Crane's luxurious boats. Arthur travels to Malaysia and begins researching the prison, which is on top of cliffs and surrounded by shark-infested waters, so it's impossible to sneak in. With a plan in mind, Arthur buys some powerful explosives that he disguises as chewing gum, some shark repellent that he puts in a skin cream tin, and hides the capsule inside a cigarette. Lastly, he makes a fake passport and replicates the infamous wanted criminal tattoo. Walking through the streets, he intentionally annoys the cops. But when they see who he is, they arrest him. He's immediately taken to jail and Crane's men are waiting outside. At the reception, guard doesn't notice anything weird about his items and allows them to keep them. The first few days, Arthur takes it easy and talks to other prisoners to learn more about his target. Krill has his men following him at all times because lots of people want to kill him. Even if he's locked up, Krill manages all his business from here and is the big boss of the place. Arthur watches a knife exchange hands between two prisoners. And during lunchtime, he bumps against them on purpose to discreetly steal that. Later, one of Krill's former men tries to kill Krill for revenge, but Arthur cuts in and kills him with the knife. Krill is very impressed and invites Arthur to have dinner with him. Arthur only accepts if Krill is willing to leave his men outside. Surprisingly, Krill accepts his terms, and in the evening, Arthur is escorted from his cell to meet Krill at his private room. Krill tries to offer Arthur a job, but as soon as he turns around, Arthur jumps on him and kills him by putting pressure on his neck. Then he mixes the snake venom Krill used for his rituals with his actual drink to make it look like Krill ended things for himself. The guards outside are getting suspicious, but Arthur puts the body in a praying position so the guards think the silence is for the sake of religion. Afterward, Arthur puts the explosive gum on a prison, he swallows the pill and covers himself with the shark repellent on himself, while the wall blows up behind him. Then, he jumps into the water before the cops can catch him. Crane's men are waiting for him in a fishing boat. And Arthur gets to escape safely. Crane makes a video call to prove Gina is fine and gives Arthur his second target, Adrian Cook, a human trafficker that lives in Australia. Crane then looks at Arthur's father's watch on Gina and is very happy to see he finally found a weakness. Some days later, Arthur is investigating his target. He learns that Cook sits at top of level 58 of the skyscraper. He's well known as a mining billionaire who has plenty of manpower by his side and holds plenty of paranoia. His penthouse is impenetrable, but he also has a cantilever pool that overhangs above the streets. Arthur hires a helicopter to study the building from afar, then he pretends to be interested in one of the apartments near Cook's. While the realtor shows him around, Arthur calls her phone to distract her, and he takes pictures of the apartment keys so he can make a duplicate. Lastly, he uses dangerous chemicals to create a small but potent explosive. The bomb completely shatters glass and make it look like it broke from pressure. A few days later, Arthur disguises himself as a technician and enters the building without being noticed, then he uses the duplicate key to get inside the apartment. After opening the window and using some of his advanced equipment, Arthur leaves through the window and climbs up the building until he reaches the pool, and makes a small hole to insert his special explosive. He starts to inject the bomb, while Cook is currently swimming and can see Arthur, but before he can call the guards, the glass starts to crack. Arthur jumps away and slides down the building to return to the apartment while the swimming pool breaks and Cook falls to his death. Impressed, Crane sees Cook's death on the news and orders his men to get things ready for the next video call. Gina notices they make her sit near a window. Using this opportunity, she slightly moves the camera to the window that happens to show the boat's hull number on the frame. When the call starts, Gina raises her hand saying the watch stopped working as a way to make him look at the number. As soon as the henchman notices, he slaps Gina, ending the call. But Arthur manages to get the number and makes a call to find the location of the boat. Later, he boards the helicopter only to find the ship missing. He flies by and follows Crane's boat, and makes it jumps into the water with a bag full of special equipment. After hiding the bag under the boat, Arthur sneaks aboard and begins killing every man he comes across. Unfortunately, he's seen and Arthur finds himself in a hand-to-hand fight against a bunch of thugs, while Gina is taken out of the room. She tries to defend herself, but her basic skills aren't enough and she's put in a helicopter. Arthur jumps on one of the guards and takes his grenade to knock out the thugs that are after him, using the guy as a shield at the same time. Unfortunately, more men arrive and chase him to capture him. Moments later, Gina and Arthur are taken to another boat, where Crane confesses he knew Arthur would try this because he can't help himself, but he still has to do the third kill. After Crane leaves, Arthur beats up the guards instead of letting them take him away properly. Then he jumps into the water where he retrieves his equipment, which includes an oxygen tank and a small engine that allows him to escape safely. A few days later, Arthur is in Bulgaria, where he gets the details of the last kill. An infamous American arms dealer named Max Adams. After doing some thorough background research, Arthur realizes that Adams has Max Security Fortress where he keeps submarines with intercontinental ballistic missiles. He also realizes that these kills are Crane's attempt at getting rid of all his competition in arm dealing, which makes him have second thoughts. Sometime later, Arthur shoots at one of Adams' guards from afar, then he sneaks onto the roof of a hospital to hide in the emergency helicopter. The pilot flies to Adams' fortress to check on the fallen soldier, and while everyone is distracted, Arthur gets to enter the building. Inside, he installs a jammer to ruin the security cameras, then begins taking down any guard he sees. Soon the building is put under alert and the henchmen escort Adams to his panic room, and Arthur delays them by making the elevator malfunction. By the time Adams makes it to his room, he is startled by Arthur, who's already there waiting for him. However, Arthur doesn't shoot. Instead, he offers Adams to work together to bring down Crane. Arthur's plan begins with Adams faking his own death. After a while, Adams begins checking his submarines, and when he walks on a bridge, a bomb explodes. However, Arthur is already waiting underwater and shares an oxygen tank with Adams, and take him away to a beach. Crane sees the explosion on TV, where the news announces Adams was buried in the water under a bunch of debris. At that moment, Arthur calls him to inform him of the third kill, but Crane won't believe him until he sees the body. Arthur promises the body can be found underwater, so after hanging up, Crane sends his men to find Adams' body and kill Arthur. Meanwhile, Arthur returns to the submarine pen and prepares a bunch of traps in advance. When Crane's henchmen arrive, one by one they fall into the traps and die. He used some booby traps to kill, and those who survive are eliminated by Arthur from the shadows. Witnessing such, Crane realizes Arthur is coming for him next, so he puts Gina outside as bait. Arthur travels underwater and reaches the boat to immediately begin killing every guard on site. Crane sees him on the security footage and orders his men to bring Gina back inside right before Arthur destroys the cameras. Gina tries to fight the guard that grabbed her and ends up getting shot on her stomach. Then the guard pushes her into the jacuzzi, only for Crane to grab her next. While Arthur continues to fight the guards, he soon goes on rampage by killing one ruthlessly using a grenade and using another to shield himself. Meanwhile, Crane takes Gina inside the control room and activates an explosive hidden in the boat. Then he leaves to try to escape in his rescue boat. Just a second later, Arthur finds Gina and learns about the bomb, so Arthur puts Gina in an emergency release pod and sends her away. Afterward, Arthur goes after Crane and starts to eliminate the last few guards, not before showing some spectacular moves. The duo starts to exchange some bullets but immediately switches to hand-to-hand combat after they ran out of bullet. Crane puts his hands on the anchor chain and uses it to capture Arthur by his leg, but Arthur takes advantage of its length and uses it to tie Crane to the boat. Crane laughs because Arthur took too long and he'll die too, but Arthur doesn't look too worried and begins running inside right before the bomb explodes. Gina watches the boat blow into pieces and catch on fire, and cries for Arthur's death. At least the explosion gave away their position and soon emergency services rushes by. Adams also returns to coast and watches Gina being rescued by the Coast Guards. He then watches the ship's wreckage from afar and thinks there's something weird about the boat pieces that are being brought from the sea, but before leaving he also notices a security camera nearby. Some weeks later, Gina is back in Cambodia with the kids, and she writes to May to thank her for the donation of a water filter. One afternoon while she's busy teaching, she's shocked to discover Arthur is alive and has come to see her. Meanwhile, Adams researches Crane's boat and learns this model has something called a diving bell, which contains trapped air to allow divers to breathe underwater. With a theory in mind, Adams checks the security footage and confirms Arthur escaped by hiding in the diving bell. Impressed by this plan, Adams deletes the footage to protect Arthur's future. Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. See you in the next one.